The question displayed on the screen is a question I have developed to further understand Mendelian patterns of inheritance, specifically in relation to lethal alleles. This question is important because it ties together multiple topics of genetics, including dominant and recessive alleles, as well as the inheritance of lethal alleles. I chose to format the question in a way that requires multiple steps, background knowledge of genetics, and some genetic skills such as writing Punnett squares to eventually come to a final conclusion. If you would like to try the problem for yourself, pause the video now. You are a scientist that recently discovered a new organism and you are studying the patterns of inheritance for certain traits. The organism has long, beautiful fur that comes in 3 colors as a result of 3 different alleles: blue, green, and red. You have already found out that the blue fur allele is dominant over the green fur allele, and you now want to determine the inheritance pattern for the red allele. So part A. You mate a homozygous blue individual with a homozygous green individual. Use a Punnett square to diagram this cross. Write out the genotypes of both parents as well as the offspring, and write out the phenotypes for the offspring. So to start, let's write out what we're going to use for each allele. So we'll use capital B for blue, and since we know that blue is dominant over green, we'll use lowercase b for green. There's also a red allele that we don't know anything about, so for now, we'll just use capital R for red. So we have the parent generation is a homozygous blue crossed with a homozygous green. So to diagram this cross, we'll put the blue parents' alleles on top and the green parents' alleles on the side. Fill in the Punnett square. And so now we know that the F1 generation, or the offspring, is going to be 100% heterozygous for the color, which is also 100% blue. So you now mate one of the offspring from the previous cross with a red-furred individual whose genotype is unknown. The cross yields offspring that are phenotypically 50% red and 50% blue. What is the genotype of the red parent? And what are all the possible genotypes of their offspring? So that means the parent generation for this time is going to be a heterozygous, mated with a red individual whose genotype we don't know. So we know it has the red allele, but we don't know what the second allele is. So for now, I'm just going to put a space. So to diagram this cross, same as before, we'll put the red on top and the blue individual on the side. And so now we just need to figure out what would give us phenotypically 50% red and 50% blue. So we have 3 separate alleles. Let's just start with red. If we said that this individual is homozygous, that would give us the phenotype, or the genotype of this, which would give us, we essentially don't know what this would give us. Is red dominant over blue? Is green dominant over red? We don't know. So for now, we'll just put that to the side. So we do a different cross. Let's try with blue. And that gives us red and blue, red and green, blue and blue, and blue and green. So this here gives us 2 blue individuals. And we don't know what this is. We don't know if red is dominant over blue yet or if it's over green. So let's just try the other option, which is red and green. That gives us red and blue, red and green, blue and green, and green. We know that this gives us green phenotype, so right away we know that this can't be true because it's 50% red and 50% blue. This right here is 50% blue. And as for this one, this phenotype is the same and this is the same. We don't necessarily know anything, so let's go with this being the correct answer. So now, the genotype of the red parent would be heterozygous for red and blue, and the offspring would be red and blue, red and green, homozygous blue, or heterozygous blue and green. So now, part C, what is the order of dominance in the alleles? Well, we know that blue is dominant over green. And going off of this, if we are choosing these as our alleles, we would know, as our red phenotypes, we would know that red's dominant over blue and green. Okay. The cross in part B yields two possible genotypes with the red allele. That's red and blue and red and green. You cross these two together, expecting 3/4 of the offspring to be phenotypically red and 1/4 to be phenotypically blue, but you are shocked to discover that only 2/3 of the offspring are red and 1/3 of the offspring are blue. Explain how this happened. So let's start by diagramming the cross. So this is the parents, and when we diagram this cross, we get a homozygous red, a heterozygous red with the green, a heterozygous red with blue, and then a heterozygous blue with the green allele. So we expect 1/4 to be phenotypically blue, which would be here, and 3/4 to be phenotypically red, which would be these three. But we're only seeing 2/3 to be red and 1/3 to be blue. So we already know that this is a valid phenotype, and we know that these are both valid phenotypes as well. That would mean that the most likely explanation of this is that the red allele is lethal. So when you have a homozygous pair, it causes the organism to die in utero, which explains why the offspring's phenotype would be 2/3 red and 1/3 blue. So explain how this happened would be red allele is lethal. So is it possible to have a homozygous red individual? No, because it would die in utero.